Welcome, folks. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's crucial for parents to understand: early puberty. Early puberty, or precocious puberty, is when a child's body begins maturing into that of an adult too soon. For girls, it's starting before 8 years, and for boys, it's before 9. This can lead to a host of issues, including hormonal imbalances, and it can significantly affect a child's physical and emotional health. Now, you may wonder, why does this happen? Well, several factors can contribute, but today we're focusing on the role of diet. Yes, what our children eat can greatly influence when they begin puberty. Certain foods, especially those high in fat and sugar, can trigger early onset of puberty. They can lead to increased body fat, cause hormonal disruptions, and even inflammation. But don't worry, knowledge is power. By understanding these factors, we can make informed decisions about our children's diet and potentially delay the onset of early puberty. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's dive into the types of foods that can cause early puberty. First up on our list of food culprits are certain types of fats. Now, not all fats are bad, but when we talk about fats that could potentially trigger early puberty, we're looking at saturated fats. These are typically found in foods like red meat, butter, and cheese. Here's the scoop. Saturated fats can contribute to insulin resistance. That's a condition where your body doesn't respond to insulin as it should, and it can lead to increased body fat. This excess body fat can then lead to hormonal imbalances, which might just set the stage for early puberty. But that's not all. These fats can also boost estrogen production. Estrogen is a hormone that plays a key role in puberty. So an increase in estrogen could potentially trigger puberty sooner than expected. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the gut microbiome. That's a fancy term for all the bacteria living in your gut. Believe it or not, the composition of your gut microbiome is influenced by dietary fat, and this can have a big impact on sex hormone metabolism and neurotransmitter production. These two processes are critical for puberty development. So, here's the bottom line. While fats are an essential part of our diet, it's important to ensure that your child's fat intake is balanced. Too much of the wrong kind of fat can potentially lead to early puberty. So, it's essential to keep an eye on your child's fat intake to ensure it's balanced. Next up, we got sugar, the sweet stuff that's not so sweet for your child's hormonal balance. Now, we all enjoy a sweet treat now and then, but it's important to understand that excessive sugar intake can have some not-so-sweet effects on our bodies. When we consume too much sugar, it can lead to insulin resistance. This is when our cells stop responding to insulin, a hormone that helps regulate our blood sugar levels. This resistance can result in chronic inflammation, a condition that's linked to a host of health problems, including hormonal disruptions. But how does this relate to early puberty, you might ask? Well, these hormonal disruptions can potentially influence the onset of puberty. Essentially, the body gets confused by the high sugar levels and the resulting inflammation and insulin resistance, and it may trigger the start of puberty earlier than it should. So, while there's nothing wrong with enjoying a sweet treat occasionally, it's crucial to keep an eye on the quantity. Too much of the sweet stuff might just be setting off a chain of events in your child's body that could lead to early puberty. Remember, moderation is key when it comes to sugar. Now let's talk about something you might not expect: endocrine-disrupting chemicals in food packaging. These are chemicals that can interfere with our body's hormone system. They can be found in many everyday products, including some types of plastic. Two prime examples are BPA and phthalates. These chemicals have the ability to mimic estrogen, a primary female sex hormone. When these chemicals enter our bodies, they can reduce the levels of sex hormones and disrupt hormonal balance. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with early puberty? Well, these disruptions can potentially act as triggers for early puberty. These chemicals are particularly prevalent in plastic packaging. That's right, the very packaging that might be holding your child's lunch could be contributing to hormonal imbalances. It's a bit unnerving, isn't it? But don't worry. There are ways to reduce exposure to these chemicals. One effective strategy is to avoid plastic packaging when possible. You can opt for alternatives like glass, silicone, or stainless steel containers. These materials do not contain endocrine-disrupting chemicals and are generally safer for storing food and drinks. Remember, it's not just about the food your child consumes, but also about how that food is stored and served. So be mindful of the containers you use for your child's food and drinks. Finally, we're going to talk about a factor that often goes unnoticed: hormones in livestock. You see, hormones are used in livestock to enhance growth and milk production. But did you know that these hormone-like compounds can find their way into our bodies when we consume meat and dairy products? This is where things get a little tricky. These hormones can interact with our own endocrine system, potentially causing disruptions that can impact our hormonal balance. Just like a finely tuned orchestra, our hormones need to be in perfect harmony for our bodies to function properly. When outside hormones join the symphony, they can throw everything off key. Moreover, contaminated feed, often used in livestock farming, can also contribute to these disruptions. These feeds can contain a range of harmful substances, from pesticides to heavy metals, that can further interfere with our hormonal balance. Now imagine these disruptions occurring in a developing child's body. This can potentially trigger early puberty, a situation that comes with its own set of health and psychological challenges. So it's worth considering where your meat and dairy products come from. Well, folks, that's a wrap on the top foods and factors that can cause early puberty. We've delved into the role high fat and sugar intake can play in instigating this process by causing increased body fat, hormonal imbalances, and inflammation. We've also shed light on the fact that certain fats, especially saturated fats, can contribute to insulin resistance and estrogen production, potentially triggering early puberty. We explored how sugar intake can lead to insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and hormonal disruptions, influencing the onset of puberty. We also discovered the impact of endocrine-disrupting chemicals like BPA and phthalates. Found in plastics, these chemicals mimic estrogen, reduce sex hormone levels, and interfere with hormonal balance, potentially causing early puberty. Lastly, we discussed the role of hormones in livestock and their potential contribution to endocrine disruptions. It's clear that our dietary choices, even those that seem insignificant, can have profound effects on our children's development. Remember, awareness is the first step towards healthier choices for your child. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.